You the tech wizard.
See her, you can.
Great. All right, let's get this party started. I know people need to leave right at 1 o'clock, so. Yeah. All right, we are gonna go ahead and start this Personnel Administration Committee meeting, call to order. I call this to order. Today is Tuesday, July the 11th. It is noon here in the HR/Council Conference Room in Monroe County. And thank you to all of our Zoom participants for joining us today. I'm going to look to my PAC colleagues. We've got Jeff McKim here at the courthouse, and Councilmember Marty Hawk is on Zoom. Are there any changes to today's agenda? Councilmember Hawk, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes, I can.
All right, hearing no changes to the agenda, do we need to take a vote since we have a member off in Zoom?
Yes.
All right, and it needs to be a roll call vote, right? All right, could we please have the roll for the adoption of the agenda?
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes,
Counselor Iverson.
Yes. All right, the motion is adopted 3-0. Next, we have the auditor's office. I believe that Bree Gregory is joining us on Zoom from her conference. Ms. Gregory, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for asking. It looks like today we are reviewing a WIS recommendation memo for 3 job descriptions. Can you bring us up to speed?
Yes, would love to. So we had submitted upon the conclusion of the last PAC meeting to WIS the general manager job description, which included some changes, just bringing that position, just describing the duties to where they actually currently stand. So it involved changing the title of that position to general ledger and grants manager, and then just adding those extra duties that position actually is responsible for. So that came back from WIS with the recommendation to classify it a bit higher, and they recommended that you approve those changes. The other 2 were just simply changing the reporting structure to how it actually is, which they report one to me and one to the property director. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Gregory. And again, thank you for joining us from your conference. I'm looking to PAC members for any questions or comments on these items.
I do.
Please, Councilmember Hawk, go ahead.
Yes, Bree, I know that you're busy at conference and it's been a crazy last week, but are you prepared to note whether or not there will be additional duties added to any of those 3 or anyone else in your office due to the changes in the council office presentation?
Councilor Hawk and PAC, I'm just not certain where we are on that at this time, because those job descriptions are still kind of being finalized, and we're not certain exactly where they're going to land. My understanding is they haven't gone to WIS yet. So once that comes back, I think I'll be able to provide a better answer.
Okay, and then whatever is taken off, I want to make sure we all understand, or if I'm wrong, please let me know. Whatever is removed from one job has to, according to PAC rules, be added to another job if it's still a job duty. So if there's duties coming over to the auditor's office, then whatever those duties are, we need to see the list and make adjustments in the auditor's office staff as well. It's just like we would do with any movement of job duties.
Understood.
Thank you, Councilmember Hawk. Councilmember McKim, do you have any questions or comments on these 3 items?
I do not.
All right, I only have congratulations for you, Ms. Gregory. This is fantastic that WIS is working with you on these issues, and we're excited to see this general ledger and grants manager position be added to the roles here.
Excellent. Will this mean that the next step would be to take it to council for formal approval, or how does that work?
Well, that's a great question that prompts me to ask for a motion if there is one.
Move we forward to council with a positive recommendation, the 3 position descriptions, general ledger and grants manager, internal auditor, and GIS customer service representative.
Second,
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, could we please have the roll called?
Yes. Counselor Hawk,
yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes,
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
All right, Ms. Gregory, we will work with council office to get this on the council calendar.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Have fun at conference.
Thank you.
All right, next we have our aviation department, and with us today is Amy Garst. And we're reviewing 4 different job descriptions, which WIS has already looked at.
Mhm.
So can you bring us up to speed on what's happening here with these positions?
Sure, so I'll go through the secretary and the financial manager, and the only changes to that is before it changed the org chart. Before those 2 positions also answered to the assistant director, and now it's only the director. So it did change the org chart, and that was approved. That change, that was just a simple 1-line change. And then the airport operations team lead is a new position, but we're going to move one of our operations specialists into the team lead. And what the team lead will do is take some of the pressure and the duties off the assistant director, because his is more paperwork driven as far as FAA regulations and certification and things like that. The team lead will then, on the org chart, will fall below the assistant director, and then he will be like a supervisor over the operations specialist. And operations specialist, I also believe I don't remember, I think, please forgive me. I think the wording was also changed on that. But I can't be sure, just can't remember. But what we're doing is it's already went through the WIS recommendation, and we're hoping that it will be moved then to council for these to be, the changes to be efficient.
Excellent. Before I go to PAC for questions, could I ask that page 40 of the packet be shared on the screen, please? Again, I am a visual person, and the org chart on page 40 of the packet is helpful, I think, not only for those of us who think about these things quite often, but also for those of the public who don't think about this as often. It's just kind of a helpful visual reminder of how all these positions work together as a whole in the organization. That was very quick and efficient. Thank you so much. So before I go to PAC, Ms. Garst, is there anything you'd want to point out about what you just said in terms of this org chart?
Yeah, so if you can see under the airport director, it flows down to, so the operations manager answers to the director, and then you have the specialists, and then we have a part-time, which I neglected to mention, and then this is not correct.
This is the
That's
whole
the
one.
old-
I'm
that's the
sorry.
old one.
There we go.
Yeah, and so there's the changes.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you'll see the changes.
Excellent. Well, that was a happy accident. We got to see the old
Yeah, I don't
and
see the
compared to the
second.
new.
I'm talked over you, I apologize.
No,
Is
no,
the
that's fair.
secretary under Marty there?
I just wanted to remind you that. Oh, I
Go
thought I
ahead,
pressed the
Councilor
mic.
Hawk. Go ahead.
I wanted to remind you, it's not really an additional person on that team lead. It's the same position with added duties onto it. So we don't want to look at it like it
Yeah, I
is,
missed.
it's not like 6 people on there, it's 5, or is it 4? What's the total there?
We have 5.
Counting the team lead, it's 5.
Correct.
And
So really,
5, it's 5 before, and it's now 4 with 1 team lead, so a total of 5.
Right.
So the upshot is just one LTC C gets upgraded to an LTC D.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
And for those of you reading at home, that WIS recommendation is in the packet. So you can see how they classified that. Are there any other further comments or questions on this aviation department?
Straightforward.
All right, council office, everything's fine? Human resources, everything's fine? All right. I think it's time to entertain a motion.
Move we forward to council with a positive recommendation, the updated position descriptions for airport operations team lead, airport operations specialist, airport secretary, and financial.
Second,
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, can we please have the roll call?
Counselor Hawk,
yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get you on the council calendar.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in and enjoy your yogurt. All right, let's move on to item number 5, the Employee Services Department. We've got E. Sensenstein here for a review of WIS recommendation memo for 3 job descriptions. What's going on here?
Sorry, what was the third job description?
I have the commissioners. and then-
Oh, okay. Yeah, so much, thank you, that's helpful. Yeah, similar to the other agenda items, this is WIS reviewed the 3 job descriptions, personnel administrator, commissioners administrator, and the new requested position and made their recommendations. So the changes to personnel administrator were structural, that person being the department head, still falling under the umbrella of the commissioners. And so then we adjusted the commissioner's administrator job description. And then the newly formed position for employee services assistant.
Great. Yeah, so we've got that personnel administrator Pat D and ESD assistant at comment C. That's on the WIS recommendations. I'm gonna look to my colleagues on PAC. Are there any questions or comments on this?
Sorry, I'm still like a step behind. So, okay, the commissioner's administrator is just correcting or changing the reporting. So they're
Correct.
updating.
Well, that's why we talk about these things, to make sure everyone's on the same. No, it's okay. Councilmember Hawk, do you have any comments or questions on this item?
You also have a slide to show us the reporting schedules like we had from the airport.
Yeah, that's on
Do
page
you have that slide?
60, nope, 60 and 61.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Hawk, for that reminder to get those up there.
Yeah, I think it's just really small, yeah.
So this is the employee services lines, which are at the top right hand in green. And then there's the commissioner lines.
Okay, so does it show then the HR? I'm having trouble seeing that. It shows that HR reports then to the commissioners.
The next slide shows the stated detail. Yeah.
There we go, right there.
Right,
There you see personnel administrator in the light pink and the payroll administrator in the light blue.
thank you.
Well, and thank you for these org charts. It's really helpful to conceptualize it. All right, hearing no other questions or comments, it sounds like it's time for a motion.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, please do, yes,
A clarification question. I didn't see it in the information that I received, but just want to confirm that the newly requested position is a 40-hour position. It wasn't specified, but our department is a 40-hour department, so I just wanted to clarify that.
That will be up to the county council to say because that's a financial decision. I would think. when we send it off to WIS, they don't look at how many hours we're saying.
Yeah,
That's true. That, yeah, that is.
and I
that
just
is-
want to make sure that's communicated to everyone it should be communicated to.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah,
We should just assume, however, that it will be 40 until the council makes that decision.
right, and
Right.
it does bear attention that at the top of each of the job descriptions, it does give that work schedule.
Mhm.
So when it comes to council, we'll want to pay attention to that and it'd be helpful.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
all right, motion time.
I move we forward to the council with a positive recommendation, the updated position descriptions for personnel administrator, ESD assistant, and commissioners administrator.
Second,
Hearing a motion and a second on this item, is there any further conversation? Seeing none, may we please have the roll?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
yes,
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We'll see you at council. All right, you're gonna stay here.
Yeah.
We will move on to item number 6, and we have with us Council President Kate Wiltz, who arrived in the nick of time. Your timing is impeccable. We have 2 items that you're going to be presenting with us, and I think we'll take them in order that they are on the agenda.
Sounds great.
Okay, we'll start with item A, which is a request to amend the position description for council administrator. Can you bring us up to speed on what's going on here?
Sure. As most everyone here knows, our council administrator was previously supervised by council shortly after, we've just had, in my tenure on council, we've had several changes of office organization. Most recently, the administrator was moved in to be supervised by the auditor. And even then, that was phrased as a temporary, let's see how this works kind of approach. And over the past year and a half, I've been kind of keeping tabs on how that's going. And we have not had any performance issues at all. I want to make that clear. That's not the motivation. However, it has been communicated to me from the council administrator and other staff that they feel it would be more efficient to be supervised under the council. And they also felt that the council's demands over the last year or two or so have changed, expanded beyond the duties associated with the auditor's office. So we reviewed her job description and updated it to reflect what that job is currently responsible for. And I know this isn't this agenda item, but we also then added that that person would supervise a new council assistant, so that everything came out from under the auditor's supervision. So I'm happy to answer questions,
Great.
but the new job description just merely reflects what she's been doing.
And just for the public, before I go to PAC, if you, starting on page 63 of the packet, you'll see a job description that has been heavily edited. So go ahead and take a look at that. And with that, I'll pass it over to my colleagues on PAC. What questions or comments do you have for President Wiltz?
Well, I think the big question is just what, if these functions are being pulled out of the auditor's office. Some of them are statutory responsibilities of the auditor's office. Who in the auditor's office or what position in the auditor's office is going to do them? And do those positions then need to get modified to add additional functions?
It's a good question. In my conversations with the auditor, she felt that the bulk of what would be moving from this position back to folks in her office already have built-in redundancies or things that that position is working with the auditor on. There will be a few changes, for instance, live updates into our budgeting system will not be able to be done by this position unless the auditor decides to grant that authority to the position. My understanding is the auditor doesn't want to do that right now, so that would be done by whoever is representing the auditor in our council meetings, which there already is either the auditor or the auditor's representative there as in their role as supporting the council. So that's the only one that's popping into my head as like the big difference. Are there specific concerns?
Would this position still be able to provide? I mean, I guess, I've been on the council for a lot of years. I have never found the real-time budget information in the budgeting system to be useful or necessary. I've always found the spreadsheets to be much more useful and necessary.
And dare I say legible.
And legible, actually. So is that something we're planning on moving away from, or is that actually something that this position would still be doing during, because I thought there was something in there about it. Support
On
during
page
budget.
65 at the very top, it addresses that question.
You are correct, thank you. Okay, that answers my question.
And it's a spreadsheet orientation.
So last year, we transitioned from using spreadsheets completely outside of the system to downloading from the system and then presenting it to council in the spreadsheet. That approach I was really happy with, and that's what I would like to see continue. But that's another thing that I think moving this position into the council office will actually help with, because we can delineate the use of spreadsheets for our purposes. And frankly, I think they're invaluable for projections, for comparisons, financial analysis of impact, kind of things. So certainly that would be kept. Molly.
Okay,
And I've spoke to the auditor a couple times about how these changes would impact the budget process. And from my conversations with the auditor, I think what we're envisioning as the process is that the council administrator would be able to export information from WOW into a spreadsheet. Those spreadsheets would be used during the budget hearings for edits. And then when council finalizes the spreadsheet, it would be provided to the auditor, who would then enter it into WOW.
okay, I mean, that's certainly an acceptable for me delineation of duties. Seems to me
Well,
to be-
over time, because of Lao, the work that's needed to put together the budget, so much of it's being done by the departments, entered into, if you looked at the directions of how they're supposed to enter it. And right now they're entering in how much of their miscellaneous revenue they might think, or what additional appropriations they might think. And all of that goes into one silo, so to speak. And then that is how all this is put together. So, of course, it's the auditor's duty and responsibility to look at those miscellaneous revenues that's coming in, projections, and to see if she agrees with them or not, and calls into her department to have a discussion with each department head if she feels like that projection is off in any way. And then it's up to that auditor to put in place what she believes that we need to put in place for our miscellaneous revenue. And that is her duty. If the council wants to do it all over again, but whatever, it is the auditor's duty. And so what I would like to see is an exact list, as close as we can get it, from what duties the auditor will be doing or continue to be doing that is in somehow not included in job descriptions in that office, and make sure that they are included. And I think we should not be surprised to see that there would be a need of an additional position in that office. But we will, time will tell us once we
Yeah,
get.
I agree that we need to be very clear between the council office and the auditor's office as to what each office is responsible for and what specific tasks are being done in each space and how. Because the two need to work very closely together. So the auditor and I are working on a statement, maybe MOU kind of style agreement that outlines that separation of duties. And plan to have that for you when this comes back to PAC after it's visited WIS for classification. And to the second part of what you said, I've spoken with the auditor and specifically asked if doing this rearrangement and update of the job description would require extra staff, extra FTE of any sort, and she has assured me that no. Because truly what she's doing here is reflecting what's already changed over the past few years and pulling out duties that were already assigned to the auditor.
I regret the auditor isn't here to speak to that. It seems to be somewhat different from what I was hearing, but whatever, we need to know that it will not always be that same auditor. So we need to make sure that we understand what the duties are. The next auditor may not agree. I mean, this auditor can write down anything she wants to say she agrees to allow some duties to stay in the council office. The next auditor may not. But at any rate, where we stand now is where the information we have to work with. And so I'd like to have a list of exactly what those duties are. And I know this has not been pleasant for everybody to work through this. And it would be much easier for me to just be quiet and go along with whatever everybody wants to do. But it is my duty to represent those who look at these budgets and make sure that we know what we're voting on.
So I'm certainly willing to move forward in getting and sending this off to WIS for classification, but I would like to see the same thing before council acts on it. I mean, I would have to see a mapping of every function that is the auditor's responsibility that's being pulled out of the auditor's office, and then where it actually still falls into the existing position description in the auditor's office. So if we can do that, I feel like the legitimate concerns that Council Hawk is raising will have been addressed. I know they're not yet, but we can do it before we actually take any final action.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's the intent of the auditor and myself to put together something like that. I'll make sure that county legal is involved in making sure that statutory things are where they need to be. And I'll try to get to that detail of delineation.
Mr. King, did you have something to add to this conversation at this point?
I think one thing before if there is a motion to send this to WIS, one thing I want to note is that typically when job descriptions go to WIS, there is a WIS survey that describes the frequency of the job descriptions and the listed within the description and kind of ranks them in priority. That form has not been filled out yet. Because I think the person who would tell me how often tasks are done and the ranking of such task is currently out of the office. So we'll have to work on getting that form completed before this can go to WIS.
Yeah, you're right. That is
Yeah.
an essential part of it.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Right. Is the one of the duties was helping out with a temporary committee that's put together. So, you know, that I'm wondering if the wording should be to assist with committees or something instead of stating what that committee is, because then when that committee goes, and that makes the job description off. So maybe something. Oh, I don't know why I'm trying to even help because I'm not for this. So you guys just go ahead. I'll vote no.
Regardless of your vote, I appreciate making the document better.
Do
And-
we, where is the reference or point in the job description that
I'm
Councilmember Hawk just?
looking for it.
See, that may only, is that only in the
Um,
assistant
Third
position?
paragraph under duties, page 63, I think.
Attends all council sponsored committees, including the Sophia Travis Grant Committee and the Food and Beverage Tax Committee.
I
Could we
would- I
have
would-
this up on the screen?
I don't know that there is any, I think the committee that Counselor Hawk is referencing is.
It's in the assessment. This is specifically justice related is
Yes.
mentioned in the assistant
Yes.
description. And
Um,
I would agree, I would want to pull that out too.
Well, and as a reminder, we talked about this, during the council
We did.
meeting.
And just for those of you watching at home, we're talking about the third paragraph under duties, where it references council sponsored committees.
Well, for clarity, that what's displayed on the screen is the council administrator. And I think the duty, I think Counselor Hawk may have been referencing the new job
The
description.
assistant council administrator.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. I want to keep our oranges in one basket, and our apples in the other. Are there any
We
other?
like our fruit related metaphors in county council.
There,
Vince is usually the master.
he's much better at than I am, but I'm also hungry, so that's where we're at right now. Are there any other comments or questions for this council administrator? I have one. The MOU, will that have any changes to the job description? That won't affect the job description at all?
No, the auditor has looked at this job description, reviewed it, made comment. And the idea of adding this extra agreement document is to really just make sure that things are very clear.
Okay.
Because of the history of going back and forth and things changing, and we just want to make sure that everyone understands who's doing what.
All right.
Okay,
Any
I'd like-
other? Yes, please.
But when we're going over these committees, one of them is the Food and Beverage Tax Advisory Committee, which is not meeting now, though I think we should take a hard look. County Legal needs to do that to make certain that the way the new legislation is telling us that we would still have to go to the Food and Beverage Tax Advisory Commission. It's not a committee, it's a commission. I think. They have no authority to say yes or no, but I do think that they still have to go there. So I don't know whether you want to leave that on there or not. I just really would think you might just say in general committees or something, because every time you add a new committee, you're going to want to add something on there.
Yeah, I do wonder what was the point of enumerating specific or naming specific committees rather than just saying attending council sponsored committees and board and commissions or something like that.
Trying to make it look a whole lot busier doing.
I'm
committees.
trying to acknowledge the changes over the past few years is really, I think, where that came from. And I agree that starting from scratch, perhaps we just say, attends all council sponsored committees. I'm looking at it now and thinking that I don't know, I guess we wanted to call those out because they have a particularly large impact on workload. They're intensive. But we didn't want to limit it to those, understanding that there are other ones.
And it might be up to the council president to assign which committees the staff would go to, because I'm not sure you want the staff to go to the Women's Commission and the this and that and the other commission that where we have appointments to. Whatever.
The idea of enumerating the committees comes from somewhat of the old job description because it did list like a pack, and so we adopted that idea.
I do, this probably isn't the time or place, but perhaps attending all council-sponsored committees isn't the right wording.
No. It's not. I'm trying to figure out what the right wording is. I mean, I think we understand what this paragraph is supposed to say. It's
Yeah.
just the wording is not quite right. I mean, FabTech is not really a council sponsored committee either, but I agree that we want this position to staff it.
What if the language was changed, attends all council sponsored committees as directed, and then it would be as, if we wanted to go to PAC, that's fine, and then the direction would just come from the council itself.
The reason why I call that to our attention is, we know if staff went to every committee and whatever commissions put together, we would have a lot of overtime or comp time building up, and that's not the best use of that time.
I mean,
So,
I agree with as directed. I think Ms. Turner King's suggestion is a perfectly good one.
Yeah, do we want to amend that right here and now?
I guess I was going to, well,
Or do we want to send this to WIS and have council look at it?
I was gonna make a motion to forward this to WIS after President Wiltz and Ms. Turner King update paragraph 3 and we complete the
Questionnaire.
the questionnaire, the Jobcast questionnaire.
All right, is that a motion?
That is a motion.
All right, do we have a second? I'm gonna second that. I like the sound of that. Any further conversation on this?
are we voting now on the amendment?
There is no amendment. There's a motion to send this to WIS with direction to staff and electeds to change this paragraph and do the questionnaire. So that's the motion on the table. And it has been seconded.
Basically, I'm trusting the president and our council attorney to come up with the word, the correct
I
word.
plan on just putting as directed in there.
And I like that.
All right, a motion has been heard, a second has been made, discussion seems to be at an end. May we please have the roll on this position?
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
No?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
motion passes 2-1.
Excellent. Thank you so much, President Wiltz. Let's move on to the second one, the Assistant Council Administrator. Tell us what's going on here,
Okay.
if you would, please.
I
That was very direct. I'm sorry.
I am happy to. So this is the creation of a new position with the understanding that a current position in our part-time line would go away. So it assumes some of the duties that are already being done in the part-time position and adds a backup to the council, the council administrator and her duties, and then provides continued support to those committees as well. So we're responding to the expanded workload that council has put on the council office. And I think this will allow us to operate more efficiently, have coverage where needed, particularly when the council administrator needs to be away from the office, which
It's happening right now.
is happening right now, for sure. And just formalizes that backup and helps us have a kind of a more smooth day-to-day. Our council administrator has expressed a difficulty in being able to take time off that they deserve and need. And this, having someone who can slide easily in to covering some duties would help that person immensely with that.
So we have this position displayed graphically on your screen. And we'll move into the language in a second, but it's nice to start with pretty pinks. So are there any questions from Pat on this assistant council administrator?
Yeah, I guess I have a couple. One, I understand that now that there's a, right now that there's clearly with the council administrator being absent, there's a kind of urgent need, but once the council administrator comes back, will there still be a need for a full-time position? Based on the amount, I know you and Trent have been managing the office along with Kim more closely. Is there still enough demand for work?
To be honest, when we started this process months ago, that was my first question is really, do we have enough work? And I was convinced that yes, we do, given the additional committees and the fact that there is an HR function written into this job description. So in essence, there's support being provided to E's office, I believe. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, I think there are some duties that collectively can be done by our department and this person in the council office as well.
Right. So I felt like that filled out and made me feel comfortable with this being a full-time position.
So when does the Justice Committee terminate?
End of the year, unless council decides to continue it.
That's correct. Yep. So December 31st, it automatically ends unless council renews it.
And just looking at the job description, we discussed this particular change at the last council meeting. There was a specific reference in there to JFAC. But at the council meeting, we changed the language to 4 council-sponsored committees. And it doesn't list what those committees are, but JFAC would be currently included as until it doesn't exist.
And just as a matter of,
That's up on screen now.
and as a matter of history, this, the part-time position, which this then assumes, was providing support to the CJRC when it was meeting. Presumably that committee could be recalled, and that was expressed by the commissioners that it would be. So again, I think we would be offering support to that committee if that happened. So I see this as, there will be ongoing needs for administrative support outside of just the regular council office.
So
I would like
was
to- I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I would just to kind of follow up on this and then Council Huck will go, but I was assists with research on various justice related issues as assigned. Is there any particular reason why justice related was included there rather than assisting with research on issues as assigned related to council committees? It might not be justice related.
I think that was an oversight on my part. I changed the justice committee in the first part of the sentence and I didn't notice it in the last part, so I'm happy to take out the word justice.
Okay,
And for those watching at home, you can see that's the last sentence in red on your screen.
I would like to suggest, I'm not in favor of doing this, but if you're going to do it, somebody needs to be doing some research on the legislative issues. There's so much on there that we should have already been discussing before now, having to do with responsibilities of the county council. And that just is going by the wayside. And I don't know how to bring any more attention to it than beating on that drum. But having to do with whether or not the council administrator could take a vacation, or what, for whatever reason she needs to be away. That should not rely on somebody else in the council office. If it's, I mean, that could be handled through the auditor's office. And this is all tied to the fact that we don't want this position doesn't want to be under the auditor's office. But this could all be avoided if it was underneath a full-time elected officials oversight. So I just don't support it, whatever.
To that point, let's say that a county council member has need for research in an area which they feel it's important. Who approaches this position with that need?
I don't know.
Present.
All I know is that I have
Hold on.
contacted many of, more than
Councilman
one
Brock,
area
hold
and
on.
don't get an answer.
Councilmember, President Welts, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, presently, individual council members make requests of the council administrator and the part-time assistant all the time for research related things. And that works fairly well to have that sort of ad hoc approach until or unless there's an overwhelming workload. And
Say from an overeager council member.
for sure,
Yeah.
or a time of year when there's just,
A
budget
lot of
time of
people,
year.
yeah, yeah.
And then they don't have capacity to do other things. And that management would then probably fall to the council president and pro temp.
I get, what I'm driving at is there's codification here of a reporting line. And that's on page 74, where the incumbent reports directly to the council administrator.
Mhm.
So in my mind, this job description not only helps with some of the things that you enumerated, it's at the very bottom of 74. But it also makes sure that when there's 7 council members, that this person isn't being overwhelmed with requests for assistance. Because I can see how that could happen.
Yeah, we do have staff meetings right now with the council administrator and the part-time position. We would anticipate still having those. We do those twice a month. And have regular communication and work assignment, workload is definitely talked about during those meetings.
Excellent. I have another question for E.
Sure.
Do you have anything that you'd like to bring to our attention with this job description as we're weighing the decision whether to send it to WIS? Simply because there's duties that,
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that similarly, I get some requests occasionally from elected officials or departments or things to do some research and I'm also in our department looking to add some duties to another person so that I can do the things, those types of things. So I understand where this position is coming from. And I think that there could be some overlap with, because some of those things, requests that I get are, personnel related while also council related. And I think there is some overlap there. And so that would, it would assist me sometimes in periods where there's more things for our office to be doing and can sort of work back and forth collectively with the council office to do some of those things. That makes sense.
no, it does. I really appreciate that context. I think a lot of that happens behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And I don't think the public is necessarily aware that, this building is full of elected officials who have a lot of requests.
Yeah, we have our duties that you're outlining in your job description, those things that we have to get done on a daily basis or whatever, but there are other things that we would like to be able to provide, and sometimes we don't, a timing or a staffing issue to do those things.
I think that speaks to the role of the council office as a whole, as one of serving the rest of county government. And really linking across departments and offices.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I will say about that is that while you're transitioning to using the LAO as a budget portal for departments, we're similarly doing some stuff in our department, and the amount of time that we have to spend training department heads or employees or people that are using those systems has created some additional tasks and things over the past couple of years with the increasing of using software to make things more efficient. It requires some work to get those people on board too, so.
Before I ask for a motion, I just want to make a quick statement that we have definitely in PAC here this year have heard from other departments who have been thinking about succession planning. That there's so many important functions that are packed into these job descriptions that if the person occupying that position suddenly departs for whatever reason and is unable to fulfill those duties, oftentimes there is a vacuum, and that has unintended consequences for provision of services in county government. So I am very much in favor of this for that reason alone. There just needs to be somebody who can step into the void when that happens, whether it's right now or a year from now, or 5 years or 10 years from now. This is, in my mind, this is a good practice to do. So are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm intrigued by Counselor Hawk's suggestion about including, informing counselors about new legislation affecting the duties of the county council. What about adding a paragraph that would be something like, or a duty that would be something like, works with legal counsel, DLGF, AIC, and other organizations to inform counselors about new legislation affecting the duties of county council.
I think that would be great.
I mean,
County legal, any issues with that?
I don't see any. I can make that change.
So that
Let-
actually supports our county legal department as
right,
well.
because it's just a
Still to
little
the
more
point of,
clarification.
yeah,
Exactly.
still to the
I
point
guess
of-
my question for you to be just to consider is, do you think that that is a higher level task, or is that like at what point and I guess that's just what I'm trying.
I think it's an annual task.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so
You're just
because it's
wanting
being
them to-
repeated.
Yeah,
it maybe
to bring
merits-
awareness, like to
Yeah,
just
I
do that
mean,
research
you know,
and come up with.
Right,
what
we're
that
not
stuff
asking her to
is.
be a legal analyst.
Yes,
We
yeah.
have a lawyer and we have organizations to do that analysis. It's more just to be
Some-
gathering it and nagging
Yeah, that makes
counselors,
sense.
basically, pushing stuff out to us.
There's a lot of
That's-
nagging it that's not spelled out here, but is implied.
All right, so I think we have some opportunity for some motions. Are there any, do we want to go ahead with some of those?
Okay, I move we add a duty that is, in essence, works with legal counsel, DLGF, AIC, and other organizations to inform counselors about new legislation affecting the duties of county council.
Motion's made. Is there a second? I'll
I-
second that, Helen. Oh, go
I
ahead.
would like for that to be working with legal department to make sure it's worded such that we know this position is not supposed to be the one who knows what's going on in the legislation, but just making sure that from the legal department, they should be making it sure it gets on the agenda, and this person should be able to work with the legal department to get the information they are presenting to us.
Yeah, that's what that's
I'm saying it wrong, but yeah.
was intended. This.
All right, I think that fits into the motion and the second. Any further conversation? Can we call the roll, please?
Counselor Iverson?
Yes,
Counselor Hawk?
Is this on the amendment?
that's right,
Yes.
for the legislative updates.
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes,
Amendment passes unanimously.
All right, so we're back on the amended job description. I think it'd be good to entertain a motion, send this up to WIS.
okay, I move we send this, the position description as amended for the council assistant to us for classification.
And that the WIS forms.
The
Oh, yes,
questionnaire.
contingent on the task survey.
All right, a motion has been made. I'll second that. I like the sound of it. So is there any further conversation about the assistant council administrator's position description being sent to WIS? Seeing or hearing none, could we please have the roll?
Counselor McKim?
Yes,
Counselor Hawk?
No,
Counselor Iverson?
Yes,
Motion passes 2-1.
thank you, and we'll get those off to WIS, and when they come back, we'll let you know.
and
you very
recall,
much.
I have asked for a fiscal update, which I still don't have. I thought this meeting would be postponed. And that's the reason why I'm not there, because we need to have a fiscal on this.
Thank you, Ms. Hawk. All right, we need to move on to item number 7, which is discussion on requesting scoring sheets from WIS. Ms. Turner King, what's going on here?
So there was a department who requested that, we provide them a copy of the scoring sheet that WIS uses for job classifications. Currently, we do not have a copy of that sheet, and I have not requested it from WIS, and I do not plan to do so unless PAC directs me to do so. I did have a conversation with WIS about, do other departments or counties have this form? They did say other departments or counties do have the form, but it's kind of up to us whether we want it. They would happily provide it. Their concern is, once we provide a scoring sheet, then are the job descriptions being edited to actually reflect job duties accurately, or just to get a score that you want for classification purposes?
That's already happening anyway.
So I guess, do you want me to ask WIS for this and send it to departments?
I do not.
I don't either. I feel like a lot of the information they have on scoring can be found readily using other sources.
And we don't want to be, I don't think we want to encourage the practice of trying to engineer a score.
I agree.
We
All
just
right.
engineered our own. Well, it's good enough for us, but not for the other departments. I get it.
No, I think we most certainly did not do that. We described needs that actually exist in the department. I don't think we tried to make it any decision based on trying to engineer. a
Well, and the
score.
evidence of that is that we have departments that keep coming back to us that don't like the classifications, and they're trying to update those. So, all right, well, next on the agenda, we have some summary minutes. Any changes to those? All right, hearing none, we have to call a roll on this, don't we? We have a roll call.
Yes. Counselor Hawk?
Yes,
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes. All right, before I adjourn, huge kudos to Molly Turner King and Courtney Mosier for pulling this packet together. You've got a lot going on. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the hard work you've been doing. That needs to be publicized. All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Look at that. You've got 1 minute to get to your next meetings.
Work never starts on time. What? I do. I gotta go talk about Potbelly Pig, who's at large. Peppa the Potbelly Pig.
Peppa the Potbelly Pig, who is a public nuisance.
Who's a public.
Well, I need to go back to the pony training to learn more about how
Oh,
to.
yeah, how's that going?
Jeff McKim, it is so dry.
Okay.
Wait, there's.
Well, we did work